Good morning, everyone. And again, very grateful that you guys are joining us for Signals and Symptoms podcast. We have two amazing guests today. Number one, Arlen Myers, which I truly respect. He is one of the most premier entrepreneurs. He created the Society of Physician Entrepreneurship. We'll talk to him more about it consistently. And of course, my good friend, Mohammed Siddiqui, who definitely lives up to the title of Visionary Chief Information and Development Officer, driving the true spirit of CIOs in healthcare at Reed Health. So again, I'm very grateful. Before I go into this week's updates, I just want to make sure that one of best reading is Digital Health Entrepreneurship. This is done by Arlen Myers. This helped me a lot. This is truly amazing way of put everything together. As a matter of fact, that is one of the books that inspired me to go into entrepreneurship and then go from there. So if you are really looking into becoming healthcare entrepreneur, this is a first and a must read. Okay, going back to some of the updates, Microsoft is going to spend 15.2 billion in UAE with Nvidia. So we're seeing a significant amount of investment going into internationally, and I know Harvey keeps talking about it. IRA Health lends 18.2 million to expand post-acute platform, which is very important. Just telling you, being an acute stroke physician, neuro ICU physician, post-stroke care is extremely post-stroke care or post-acute care is so important, and I'm congratulations to them. Sanofi, which is a big pharma company, and Quant team up to advocate AI-powered digital twins and clinical trials. By the way, just Arlen Myers is going to be at AI Med. We're going to have a session on digital twins with Anthony Chang. Was there 2 sessions ago. Please make sure you attend that session. It is extremely important, and this new clinical trial simulation is going to be making wonders, and we're going to decrease the cost of creating new drugs. Prosper AI raises 5 million for voice AI platform. Again, we are churning into what we call true multimodality. Inspire AI 100 million Series B led by AI driven future for senior living. Um, Sword Healthcare 102 million for solves long-standing threat to patient access and experience. This is Ed's favorite topic. So Ed, you can comment on it. Again, I go fast, and anyone while we are having the discussion, feel free to do this. Caregility, an amazing telehealth company, used to be my competition when I was VP at Vivan Health. Just generated get 25 million. Amplify is another care delivery system. Get 20 million Series B. Of course, Nvidia hits 5 trillion valuation, which I believe now is the peak. And then, as you know how the move goes, you get all the investment in infrastructure, and now we're coming to the application layer, and you're going to see a lot of application layer companies, especially with the turning economic environments, getting massive funding moving forward. This is something that I think Mohammed Siddiqui can teach me about. Vanderbilt to buy CHS, Tennessee hospitals at 600 million. There's continued consolidation in the hospital space. Tesla Cybercup may have a steering wheel. After all, the reason I put this is you need to understand the difference that this whole podcast is all about. Hype versus reality, and then there's always created a hype, but you have to understand reality is different. So some of the good readings, generative AI teaching assistant for personalized learning and medical education. This is Arlen's favorite topic, and you're going to see that this is again very important. They're using RAG-based approach, but at the end of the day, this is something if you're really looking into using AI in medical teaching, it's a very important read for you guys. MOME is an architecture that we are also moving to a mixture of visual and language experts. And the idea is to bring large models in a small size so they can, like how we deliver at Save Life AI, Edge AI, they're going to be changing some of these architectures. And medical imaging segmentation is extremely important. And this is amazing paper to read through this. Why foundation models in pathology are failing. Again, this is important for a reading that pathology is different than radiology. Radiology is modalities, and we are doing foundation model per modality. But pathology, we have been doing it as a whole, and I think that is the reason that it's failing. We should have a skin foundation model, thyroid foundation model, tongue foundation model, etc. And that's one of the things that we should look at. High quality visual question answering. Again, visual question and answering is going to be very important in terms of generating true clinical decision support. Again, very good read. Those who are looking at Amar Doctor is from Bangladesh. interestingly, and they actually developed something what Ed has been talking about, essentially primary care. This is really about, this is for primary care triage. And this is again, and Harvey keeps talking about Morocco and everything, and you're going to see that internationally we are seeing much more innovation. And you guys can talk about how regulation here is giving you a problem. Again, mammography, I'm not going to talk about it. Our models are going to come out by the end of January as well, FDA approved. This is very important topic. We talked about Sherry. As a matter of fact, again, AI Med is going to hold an amazing session with Sherry Devala. We're going to put that in the show notes as well, that how you need to do AI governance more better. Amazon is laying off 30,000 people. Sorry about this, 30,000 people. And then, of course, we're going to see this. We're going to go ahead and see what it is. Qualcomm launches AI chip to challenge NVIDIA dominance. I think it is time that somebody does come up with this. Again, NVIDIA's is not about chip only, it is about the software stack. Just a reminder. Saudi Arabia is a new power play in exporting AI to the world. As a matter of fact, I had two last meetings, both of them highly interested. By the way, just to let you know, Arlen introduced me to a sheikh's nephew, I think last year. They didn't go anywhere, but I'm just telling you how these great people has helped me, and I'm extremely grateful to them all the time. And then study finds that evidence that text-based therapy eases depression. Again, these are things that we are looking at, that AI is constantly becoming big good. This is a very good data if you're looking at how to extract medical orders from patient-doctor consultation. So if you are looking at some of these data sets, this is a very good place to look for. Again, a reminder, our own Harvey Castro is going to do a TED Talk here in Dallas, South Lake. Many congratulations to him. Please, we're going to put that in the show notes, and make sure you guys attend that TED Talk live and shake his hand. I am very, and then of course, I finally have a physician who's available and who gets Mr. Meet Dr. Grok. Again, this is something I want to really get into with Sherry. That is actually Ed's wife, and she's writing a book, and we get her opinion into it. And when we go and dive deep into it, again, a reminder at AI Med. Mohammed, are you coming there by any chance? Just want to know.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, next time, because that's important. And now,
Yeah.
Mohammed's
Yeah.
is actually wrote a beautiful. Actually, I'm going to pull it up in a minute. I don't know why I actually missed that within the saved ones. So we're going to go ahead and start our conversation. And then, as usual, Hari, go ahead and start with your first question.
Well, honored to have you guys here. Love this group. Dr. Myers, I'm excited about seeing you next week. And, for me, one of the top questions for me personally, I want to know, what do you think is kind of holding us back in the AI healthcare world? Is it the education system? Is it the culture? What are some of the things you think can really help that move forward? You're on mute, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Good. So what do I think is holding us back? Personal, organizational, systemic, and societal barriers. So that's a big stack. And I'll just headline it. The personal is why we keep creating sick care providers that don't have an entrepreneurial mindset. So it really has to do with the mindset and the culture of medical education, and that's a whole other conversation. Organizationally, there's a whole list of resistance to change and why that happens, not the least of which has to do with trust and cost. So what we're seeing is, where's the beef? And we're seeing this in the market. These companies have created such high valuations, but the real issue is, where's the ROI and who's going to pay for this over the long run? From a systemic standpoint, there's a whole host of federal and state and regulatory agency barriers to launching this thing, and it's in politics and everything that we're seeing. And from a societal standpoint, there's this whole doom and gloom, and is this the savior of civilization or is it the destroyer? It's the next Oppenheimer moment. So this is a pretty complicated, wicked problem. It's a multi-systems engineering problem. There probably is not one clear solution. People are sort of fooling around with different models and states and agencies and teams and all that other business. But that's the bottom line. So what do? You can't just throw up your hands and say, well, gee, this is just too big of a problem for me to deal with. So I think you just have to pick your spot and try to make a difference at some level. And as you know, I've been pretty involved in medical education and sort of personal development and physician entrepreneurship and mindset change and all that other stuff. So there's plenty of room for improvement. It's a pretty big sandbox where people can play, and it's just a question of where you want to play.
Yeah. Thank you. Any of you guys, what do you guys think? Ed and Dr. Mohammed?
Yeah. I think, first of all, thanks, Jeanette, to having me on this podcast. It's very, very hard for me to come with Dr. Arlen and Dr. Harvey Castro and my mentor and my coach, Ed Marks, and say a few words about my opinion on this. But I agree with Dr. Myers as well. I think justifying the cost to implement AI and resistance to change, I think those are the key foundation things that really holding us back. But I think this time, one thing I can see a change now. I finally seeing in last 12 to 18 months, where AI just not become a shining object anymore. It really bring a value to the any organization, right? Let me just paint a picture. I work in a healthcare systems. Just imagine 6:45 primary care doctor wanted to go home. He cannot go home because he has to close the chart. He still has to go and look at the flood of email that comes through the inbox that he has to respond it back. How about if the AI can comes in a picture, be able to help them solve the problem where they be able to go home on time? And I have an amazing testimonial that I have seen coming from our provider's family. As a matter of fact, one of the provider's wife called me and said, "Thank you, Muhammad. Whatever you implemented, he's coming home on time, be able to
Yeah.
spend some time with the kids and able to go to the baseball game with my son." So I think unless or until we see that kind of lucrative benefit for end users, we would never be able to successful for adoption.
Yeah, that goes in line with something Mohammed has recently published. So if you don't follow him on LinkedIn, you should. He's definitely one of the main thought leaders on the CIO, Chief Digital Officer side of the house, and able to bridge that gap very beautifully, and has great international experience. So it's a mutual mentorship that he speaks of. But you recently wrote, I think it was about a week ago, Mohammed. You had this great post, and I was wondering if you might go into it a little bit deeper. How you watched 22 hospitals close. This was sort of the byline, while reading about 85 more cutting staff, and you're like, it doesn't have to be that way. There's things that we can do. Can you talk about a little bit about that epiphany? Because I think it kind of goes in line with what you were just
Yeah.
speaking about.
Oh, well, thank you, Ed, as well. I think here's a reality, and I think everyone in healthcare leadership knows this very well, right? Um, we are facing what I call unsolvable math, that we don't know how to calculate this math there, right? The labor inflation is running so high. I think you guys probably know better than I do, with 5 to 15% annually. Reimbursement rates are not really increasing, right? Maybe we're getting lucky to get maybe 3% from the payer there, right? If you're lucky, margin are razor thin nowadays. We're not really getting the funding that we used to get even for the research anymore. I have worked in Middle East, where we don't really have that much write-off. I mean, I work in a hospital where we have literally a 50% write-off every year for our revenue. That means we're losing money there every time that we don't get paid or we get a decline, I mean, denied on a claim or something there. So, so absolutely, I think when I saw the news, and of course I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan, watching that the same time game and see the news comes out, that really put me in a pause and say, listen, why we are letting go so many of these amazing, great mind, and at the same time blaming on artificial intelligence on AI. And to be honest with you, this is not the blame for AI. I think we should blame for the reimbursement and a current system that we have in place. To be honest with you, as a matter of fact, the only remedy is out there that can help us is the AI and technology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just think about this, right? I mean, I look at the patient persona from beginning to the end. When patients are booking an appointment, see how frustration sometimes our patients get. They have to call contact center, and contact center say, "Listen, I cannot really help you. Let me transfer you call to the primary care office because this doctor has different protocol. I cannot touch his calendar." I think this is what I'm thinking. I think when we're going to empower the people to leverage an AI in a best fashion,
Yeah.
you got much better adoption, and at the same time, the ROI gonna be greater. And we have proven this ad very well without giving the name of the vendors, but
Yeah.
we have implemented ambient AI, we have implemented autonomous coding, and we have seen wonders. The result that we see, and this is not only hard ROI, I mean soft ROI, we have seen in hard ROI. When
Yeah.
service levels goes from increase from just by 1% to 2%, that's we talking in millions. So that's the
Yeah.
saving we're talking about.
Yeah, and Mohammed, the other point you touched on is the fact that we attracted some brilliant minds to healthcare.
Mhm.
They get frustrated, or because of reimbursement, whatever, we have to lay people off, and they leave healthcare. And then they do great things outside of healthcare. It always pains me. Like when I see this on LinkedIn or something, right? It's like a friend, a colleague, or something that used to be a leader in healthcare, and now they're in, I don't want to pick on another industry, but an industry not as important as healthcare, right? People's lives, the sanctity of life. It just pains me that we're losing because we're not addressing the fundamental issue, and we're not, yeah, and we've put AI like in this, like the bad, like that's the bad part, and that's causing all this. No, actually, it's what's going to help us get out of the funk. Short of complete, we can't really solve that today. A complete, redoing of our healthcare reimbursement system and way we get paid. But yeah, AI, we should be embracing it and embracing these minds and getting more of these brilliant minds into healthcare to solve some complex issues.
And Ed, to be honest
Just
with you,
just
add to that as well. What really excites me the most, I finally see the AI move out of the lab into the workflows, right?
Yeah.
We used to have this is no longer a size function or theory anymore. I can see that
Yeah.
when you integrate a proper solution within your clinical workflow, you will see the value comes in. You will reduce the clicks that provider is putting on their keystroke.
Yeah.
You will reduce the nurse goes in inpatient rooms and see the patient what exactly they're looking and doing there as well. I think that's where the value comes in.
Yeah.
speaking of great minds joining innovation and entrepreneurship, I want to remind everyone that Arlen Myers is going to do exploring non-clinical career pathways. Definitely join SOAP. His community is amazing in that. And then of course MI10. I'm gonna pose a question and then we're gonna do rapid rounds today because there's so much to get into. So make your answers short and then we'll go from there. So here's my problem as a founder. Number one, I do not find educated, which is by the way Arlen's article, we'll put it in the show notes, physicians, clinicians with data science background or AI background or coding background. I mean, essentially, when I talk to people, either you need to be a hipster, a hacker, or a hustler, right? Otherwise, you're not coming into my team. End of discussion. So the question is, why Arlen physicians are not doing this and everyone else can go around?
Well, the is
Uh-oh.
because they're not trained to do it. Two is because that's not why they got accepted to medical school or grad school or whatever. Three, because there's frankly just not enough incentive to do it. So and it's going to take a long time for, I've written this concept of the new triple threat. And the new triple threat, the old triple threat, like me in academics, was, clinician, researcher, patient, educator. That is no longer a viable business model as far as I'm concerned for the academic medical center faculty. The new triple threat will be clinician, technologist, entrepreneur. And we just simply don't have the infrastructure to produce those kinds of folks. Now, the reality is that's probably not as big of a problem as we think it is because, for example, there's many business schools are incorporating artificial intelligence into their curriculum. It's part and parcel of the curriculum. Every single course has something to do with using artificial intelligence to solve a given problem, whether it's supply chain, sales, HR, management. The same thing is actually happening in medical education despite our efforts. And it's just happening because younger generations are pushing it, and the medical schools are seeing it as a competitive disadvantage if they don't offer it. So I'm not that worried about it, actually, because I think what's going to happen is, it has to do with, and I say that it takes 17 years for a scientific invention to reach the standard of care. It's not going to take that long for AI to happen, because it is happening. This conversation is old news already. So people are coming prepared to do it. They're actively using it. And by people, I mean medical students, residents, early practitioners. The problem is that it's the blind leading the blind when it comes to the faculty because it's an adoption curve. They're the laggards, and they have to wait to die or retire before they can be replaced by people who sort of get it. So I'm not that worried about it, actually, because I'm seeing a whole bunch of medical education reform.
Harvey, our own hipster, hustler, and hacker, what are your thoughts? How can we replicate you at mass level?
Yeah. Well, thank you. At, at the end of the day, it does require a skill set, right? You need to know medicine, and then you also need to know AI, but then you also need to know AI, be creative and put it all together. That's been one of my advantages in that I've had experience where I've owned hospitals, I've created healthcare system, grew it to over 400 employees, but then with AI, I have really thought outside the box and how can we take that? And so to Arlen's point, I really think it's two main things. Number one, we don't know what we don't know. So by listening to this type of podcast, following Arlen, Muhammad, hanging out with Ed here, we're going to learn. And as we learn, our village expands. And as our village expands, then we'll start accepting things. You see, 2 years ago, everybody on this podcast listening to ChatGPT is doing things way different today than they did 2 years ago. What is the difference? Education and understanding, knowing what you don't know. And so big picture, I think, is with time, I call it the AI IQ of healthcare goes up and up. And with that time, we'll understand and we'll start accepting things. And then people out there will be like, well, heck, why am I paying this vendor? I could do this myself. And with time, we're going to start seeing that improve healthcare.
The rubber is meeting the road now because another reason is a failure of leadership. And the failure of leadership is at every level. I don't care whether it's a board of a freestanding community hospital or an academic medical center or a medical school or a startup, you name it. There's just a lack of leadership. I call this leaderpreneurship because it's really about leading innovators. It's not managing innovation systems. That's a different story. So people don't, so then that devolves into this issue of how do we define a chief healthcare AI innovation officer, and what's the job description? There are not a lot of folks that can fill that slot, but it leaves the void in leadership until we can fill that slot. And we can have that conversation, but I see that as a major stumbling block and an opportunity because there's no CMAI school. It's not like you go to officer training school. There's none of this. We don't teach any of this. So it's all OJT. Everyone on this call probably has learned at OJT. You didn't learn it in your formal education. I certainly didn't. So that eventually, though, is going to evolve more or
And you always
people
talk
with a similar
about
title.
And you always talk about soft ROI, hard ROI. And by the way, everyone on the talk, he did help me. his GTM strategy, the way just learning from the podcast. I thank you. So Ed, now you understand. Teach taught me the founders what about hard ROI and soft ROI. How do I present to Siddiqui, and then Siddiqui can say, because I'm just going to be honest with you, still, I mean, Muhammad is at a different level, but when we talk about it, they still don't get the soft ROI part. And just giving you one example, I mean, a neurointensivist that I had to hire, I was the director of their ICU. It took us 7.5 months just to get that person in, took us $1.2 million in total. So go ahead, and you go ahead and frame it, and then Ed and Muhammad, for our audiences, which includes a lot of founders like me, how should I present better, both soft and hard ROI? Ed, frame the question better. Sorry.
Well, I'm smiling because I'm going to try to pull this off. I hope it works. Okay.
Okay,
There's
beautiful.
a there's a couple billboards. Hopefully you can see the wicked one.
Yep,
Um,
I see it.
all right. So one of them says Little Shop of Horrors, which I think is what we're dealing with, the way our healthcare is today. But right above it is Wicked, and it says brains, heart, and courage. And that's what we need is leadership. I think I don't want to oversimplify, but I think the solution to a lot of what we're speaking about is leadership. And like Arlen was referring to the military, like even in the military, to go from to be a junior officer, you've got to go to your like when I was an engineer, I went to engineer officer basic school. Then a couple years later, before I make captain, I've got to go to advanced engineering school. So I'm always learning more engineering capabilities. Then I get to a certain level, and I have to go to command and general staff college in order to become a battalion commander. I've got to go to the next level, and before I become a field general, which I never did, but um, there's another school. There's a Army War College. So you're always learning and educating, and you will not advance if you don't have it. In healthcare, typically we don't have anything like that. And so there's this vacuum of leadership. And so people get promoted, right? Peter Principal, they do something good here and they get promoted here. They have known nothing about AI. They're not going to be learning. There's no incentive because they don't have to, hit these different gates of education. So I think that's one thing that's super important to embrace. I know that wasn't answering Janae your question, but I was just these billboards are flashing at me, and I was like, this is perfect.
By the way, where are you? Which city are you in?
It's Times Square right down here, so that's
Okay,
why.
you're in New York. Is that?
Yeah, all these.
Harvey, are you in Dallas or?
I was just in New York all weekend speaking at an AI conference. So we crisscrossed.
Arlen is in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Denver.
Denver, and then Muhammad is in Indiana somewhere. I forgot.
Indiana.
Yeah.
I'm in Indiana this week. Yep.
So
Awesome. Just
go
ahead.
the other thing that came up, Janae, and I'm afraid I try to be succinct like you want us to. I'm afraid I've kind of gone off the rail like one angle just now with the leadership, but the other one is another epiphany that happened yesterday or the day before. I was at Harvard and I was at Harvard Business School and one of the main professors, and we had some clinical leaders from Mass Gen, different hospitals like that, and then some IT leaders, all from the Boston area, just getting together. And they've never gotten together before. There's that intersection. Mohammed's great at this. I mean, he's the poster child. He gets with his clinicians. They know him. They call him the spouses column in his example. I don't think we get into each other's worlds enough. So to expect that you've got one person that has the trifecta, which I loved, if you could get that, where they're both AI enabled or a clinician and, they have entrepreneurship. I don't know how much of that we're going to get, but we can certainly build that trifecta with a couple of people working closely together. And then they work together on the hard ROI and the soft ROI. And yeah, the soft ROI is often overlooked because no one thinks about what's the implication of that Dr. Muhammad was referring to if they can't get rid of that, if it's too much work. We know a lot of people are quitting healthcare and leaving, including clinicians, because no one understands the soft ROI. And to the figures you threw out, Junaid, it's very, very costly. So you have to present both, and you cannot. We're going to talk about this at AI Med, with a CFO who's like only interested in hard dollars. Yes, you've got to do whatever you can on the hard dollar side for sure. But you have to through storytelling, you have to make the soft ROI just as compelling. And so there's an art to that, but that has to be done. Otherwise, yeah, we think we're saving some money. We're not making this investment. All of a sudden, we've lost, all of our orthopedic surgeons, and they've left to other industries or went to a competitor who calculated that cost because it's soft. So all of it has to be included.
If you haven't been, if you read the headlines this morning, if you've learned anything, it's the impact and, in my view, the counter revolution of living in the unaffordable states of America. It's the economy, stupid. So if you're trying to understand how is this thing going to be adopted, I don't see a whole lot of evidence that it's lowering cost. Out-of-pocket expense to patients, expense to employers, Medicaid going bankrupt, Medicare on the rules, on the rails. It's the economy, stupid. So show me how this is lowering my healthcare premium.
Yeah, fair.
Instead of, I mean,
Mohammed,
it's the experience thing is valuable, and we've heard all these tears in my eyes because I use AI and I don't have to do pajama time. Okay, enough of that.
Yeah.
How are we reducing the cost of care so that this country doesn't go bankrupt?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way,
Mohammed,
destroy the planet doing it.
Yeah.
keeping that in context and your amazing
Right.
LinkedIn post, which will again we'll put it in the show notes. Uh, and then of course Hardy is introducing me to like tons of CIO CMOs. Edward is gonna make me shake
Right.
hands with board members, but I want to
Yeah.
create that story as a founder, and which are married listeners. And this is all about two problems. Number one, how as a clinician, even a hipster hacker, something like me, still need to create that story properly for soft and hard ROI. That's number one. And number two, even being a director of neuro ICU, a VP of clinical strategy, talking to at Aurora Advocate senior executives, I see how do I close that gap from a clinician entrepreneur to talk better finances.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great question. I think the best clinician founders that I work with understand the problem deeply. I think that's very, very critical. I think this is what Dr. Castro mentioned earlier as well. They not only know the problem, they basically lived in the problem. They know exactly what the person is dealing with. So, and I think we also see the bigger gap between the solve my pain points, right? Does this drive measurable ROI at the scale, right? And I think this is where the job of a CIO today, or what I call a modern CIO, is building the bridge, the gap between those two words, right? The word number one would be, hey, listen, am I gonna get some measurable ROI? Not only the soft ROI. Of course, Dr. Meyer just mentioned about the pajama time is one of that ROI, but for CFO, that's meaningless for them. To be honest with you, for what CFO really looking for, hey, listen, will that allow me to get more service level? Will that allow me to get more, shrink the appointment time so I can see more patient that day? So when we deploy any AI solution, and I'll give you an example of my own health system, whether it can be clinical documentation, decision support, coding automation, anything we name it, we just don't train everyone and hope for the adoption, right? We build the report to identify what are the stakeholders that we need to train on, right? The clinician who are integrated in the tools fully and be able to utilize that, right? Then we study and we get the data out and say, listen, what exactly this person is doing before we deploy the AI solution versus now, right? And what we found sometime is very fascinating, right? Our top performer, not necessarily the most tech savvy, to be honest with you. Yeah. They were the one who figured out the optimal workflows and integration, right? So when to activate an AI, how to review the output efficiency, right? And where it's naturally fit into their existing platform. I think that's the key. I'll give you a perfect example. We went live when GBT become a big hype around 18, 20 months ago. Our electronic medical record system embed that for our inbox. And Read Health is not really big health system. We get close to 42,000 inbox messages for our providers, 42,000 every month. And the GPT was reviewing those messages, auto drafting automatically. Just imagine the time is gonna saving it.
Yeah.
for our provider every single day. So when we take a look at the insight, and sometime we do have an opportunity to improve our training, right? And adoption will get better there as well. But we just don't, um, we just don't look at on the how much time is being saving there as well, right? And then we able to see the data, right? So like for example, to look at the hard ROIs, a hospital saving 15 minutes per discharge summary, right? I'm not a doctor. We got a couple doctors are here doing 8 to 10 discharges. That's over 2 hours a day, right? Multiply that across your hospital's team for the year. Certainly you're going to be talking about equivalent to full-time provider. And imagine if you are short staff on hospitalists and you bringing in locum, that double the cost of any hospital today. That's the story. That's Ed just talk about it. You need to build the story and tell them a difference there as well. To be honest with you, I'll give you another example there. We collect at Reed Health close to 14 to 15 million dollars alone using our mobile application. Collect the co-payment and a payment. Just imagine that if I have to hire 6 people, you have to print the statement, you have to mail the stamps, and you have to collect the payment. Now you are doing only in your palm of your hand in a smartphone. I think we as a CIOs need to tell the story to the CFOs and the stakeholders.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. And again, a reminder, Edward Marks is going to do an amazing session at AI Med bringing multiple CFOs. Make sure you join it at AI Med. And again, grateful to both Harvey and Ed to help me structure my story. So I'm always thankful to my experts in the room. Harvey, the ball
Junaid,
goes back to
Junaid, let
you.
me.
Junaid,
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I wanna add one last thing on the same topic, Junaid. You ask about entrepreneur. I think for my definition for the best partner is just don't sell the product and walked away, right? They help a CIO to build the evidence. And I
Yeah.
think this is what we're missing today, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Junaid, there's 8 people in the buying group. When you're trying to sell a product to a healthcare organization, and to your point, they all want to hear a different story. There is no one story. Nurses want to hear one thing. IT wants to hear another thing. Supply chain, central supply, et cetera. The problem is the Rubik's Cube is putting all those together in a single decision maker.
Yeah.
So the challenge is finding out, the game is rigged. There are all these gatekeepers, and if you just keep banging on the door, you're not going to get anywhere. So you have to understand that the game is rigged, that this is a people to people, who do you know and who knows you? Who do you trust when you make the referral? Who are these guys anyway? And you have to tell the story to the decision maker and get to the decision maker to make the close. And this just has to
Very
do with
well said.
sales and marketing and making the close, and that's about telling the story. And it's another gap, incidentally, in medical education. We don't teach doctors how to sell.
That's why you need friends like Harvey Castro and Edward Marks. Harvey, go ahead. You want to ask a question? You're mute, Harvey.
Okay, just a couple of points. Dr. Myers mentioned the environment. He kind of hinted at that with AI. We're working with putting data centers in space because of the whole energy and all of that. So I'm really excited. I just wanted to plant that seed. The second part is I really think we're talking about something that we don't see coming. And I think the following. The rest of the world is spending a lot of money and time and resources into AI. They have a different culture, they have a different healthcare system, they have a unified health, electronic medical record that everybody has access to some of these countries. And as a result, they're going to be doing things that the United States are going to say, why can't we do that? And my prediction will be, I think the citizens of the US will start seeing X country, Y country, and say, you know what, why don't we have this? And the politicians are going to look at the GPR and saying, you know what, sorry doctors, we're going to change this about medicine, and here's the law. And I really think we're going to start seeing some major changes that'll be mind-blowing. So that's just my personal bias. Thoughts, guys?
You have the next question.
Well, no, I'll let you go ahead. Go
My
ahead.
thought to
Okay,
you,
all right.
Harvey, is that this argument of looking at other countries' healthcare system is a fool's errand. A country has the system it has because it reflects their values and their history. And no two countries are the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would disagree with you. And I would say that we've been fighting this battle for 100 years. Why don't we have a nationalized health system like the Brits? Why don't we have a system like fill in the blank? Because we're American. And because our value system is based on capitalism and a suspicion of centralized government that is very different from many other countries in the world. It's just not transferable. Some pieces are. Nobody can argue with global data interoperability. But the execution of it to save money and make it work for the masses is a totally different story.
Yeah, I disagree. We'll see. We'll see how things play out because I think
So just
economics
to
going
give
both
you
ways
the
would make it
hackers,
tough.
Yeah.
just to give you the hackers perspective, we are actually with the USCDI, ONC, and Health IT, the data rails are becoming easier. For me to integrate with Epic was much faster, easier as compared to even 6 months ago. Cerner, even in Qatar, was much easier. But you're right, data interoperability is going to remain a big issue. And I think some of the places are changing. That's, for example, Saudi Arabia is actually adopting the model of US, where government is there, but their vehicle becomes private insurances. But you're right, absolutely, Arlen. This is a combination of what Sherry called last one, human behavior and mindset plus technology. People, as Muhammad said, it is not just about technology solving, it is solving the story problem and solving the workflow problem rather than just solving the tech problem. So I think we are all on the same page. We'll see how this goes. I think I am actually personally very positive about the future of health IT interoperability in US. Again, it may still not be nationalized or all of that, but definitely the health IT piece is going to be. Ed, you want to continue with a question? We are actually reaching the limit of an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. What? Okay. Let's talk about what a proposed solution would be, and I. So I'm giving our two guests a heads up that this question is going to be for them. So, given all the things that we just talked about, and the current state of healthcare in America, how it's financed, things like that, certain things we can't change. But you as a leader, like what is your word of advice to other leaders, to other peers? Like what can we do in our span of control? So what are some action steps that people can do? Because I want to make sure this is practical, right? We talk a lot of theory, which is really important, uh, but you both are on the ground. So Mohammed, maybe we'll start with you. What are some things you would tell your peer group? Like you speak a lot with Chime and others. You're a thought leader and a doer, more than a thought leader. I want to take that
Right.
back.
Uh,
You are an executor of your thoughts. So
right.
what would your
I think I think the top of my mind is embrace the technology, embrace
yeah
the AI, right? Don't look at the AI as artificial intelligence as a workforce reduction, but enhancing your access and accessibility. Fix those issues. The revenue will come to the organization.
yeah
Looking ahead, I think in 26 and 27, I had a great conversation yesterday with a few of the CIOs. We need to go beyond the ambient AI for the health system. We need to look at more and more things. We need to look at an imaging technology, enterprise imaging, where we able to contribute some more stuff there as well. We need to see how we're going to enhance the CIO. The smarter CIO, the modern CIOs are looking beyond
yeah
day-to-day infrastructure. To be honest with you, they need to get more involved in day-to-day operations. They need to get more involved in a transformation there as well, because they need to understand their pain point,
yeah
just like a founder entrepreneurs are.
well said,
As a
Arlen.
matter of fact, Mahmoud, I will take you one step further. I think the CIOs need to involve in the design process itself. Because
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
designing something for a huge store. Insane, amazing, whatever. But then the CIOs come in and say, well, we need this, because I didn't really think about the financial analytics and KPIs that you have to worry about. So thank you so much for that point. And I think I am involving people personally. Arlen, you want to add some things?
You have to, in my view, you have to reframe the problem. In other words,
Mhm.
which problem are you trying to solve? In my mind, it's how do we transform a siloed, dysfunctional, sick care system of systems masquerading as a healthcare system, and how do we transform sick care to healthcare? So that's the big picture. And this is an issue all over the world. Finite resources, infinite demand. There's a mismatch. So how do we optimize resources and maximize outcomes? In order to do that, short story, change the rules. In other words, I don't care whether it's medical school, whether it's how you fund a national health program, whether it's how you run capitalism and fund these initiatives, you have to change the rules. Why? Because rules create ecosystems. Ecosystems create business models. Business models create opportunities or threats to innovate. So you have to work backwards. And until you fix the rules, you're just trying to screw a square peg in a round hole. The business model doesn't work. And I don't care how much AI you throw at it, it's not going to fix it. So
I
if you
love
didn't
it. I
vote,
love
shame on
Arlen.
you.
Is
Yes.
it
Spot
took
on. Spot
you
on.
are so right. Harvey, go ahead.
Yeah.
I know you. Actually, you had a couple of amazing questions. Do you want to throw some of those out that we haven't hit yet, Junaid?
Sure. So number one, Muhammad, when people come in, I know I'm a founder, which is by extreme pressure, and I started as an investor like Harvey, and of course Harvey is invested in my company. But the core problem that when founders come to me, is that they don't realize that it's very different than creating a Notion product or marketing LinkedIn product or etc. Because it is generally D2C or D2B2C to B2B to B2C. Healthcare is very different. It is insane in the terms of, first, nobody freaking knows who's going to pay for it. And then how do you, Arlen and Muhammad, teach the next generation of clinician leaders? Again, Muhammad comes from and Ed comes from different space. They actually talk honestly at sometimes a different language than neurology, neurocritical care, and etc. How do you help the future set of founders to become entrepreneurs but answer the first question in a better way? Who is paying for this AI? This way they understand that, is it the insurance company, is it the hospital, is it the physician, is it the patient, so that they understand this core problem, the clinician entrepreneurship problem that that exists.
Build an economic support system. We're all wrapped up with a clinical decision support system, but when it comes
Yes.
to a clinician or an end user, knowing what something costs and whether it actually adds value, they're curious but clueless. You can't expect them to know this. It's too opaque. You have to give them the data and the information, not the data. You have to give them point of care guidance at the time of clinical decision making as to what this costs and does it add value. And you just can't do it. So my pitch is create, much like clinical decision support systems, economic support systems. What is it going to cost? I'll give you an example. When you're seeing a patient and there's 53 different antidepressants you can prescribe, most of which do exactly the same outcome. Some cost 2 cents, some cost $6, some cost $150. Unless it's staring you in the face at the time of the point of care. Same thing needs to happen, I think, for most things. And actually, if you looked at what happened yesterday with Medicare issuing this, we're not paying cardiologists what we used to pay them because we're sick of them using stuff that doesn't work. We're tired of paying for useless piecework. It's another step in this transition from sick care to health care. And so I think you're going to see dermatology, everybody else, including me. I'm an ENT surgeon that made a fair amount of money doing ENT surgery. I don't know whether most of what I did added any value. Probably most of it didn't. It was like my CV. It was a lot of crap. So I don't know what, you know, but you can't expect people to know how to do this. You have to give them the point of care tool to help them make the right decision. And we don't have
You
that
know,
now.
Ed keeps talking about this sandboxing idea. So, Ed, why don't you uh, rephrase my question with a sandboxing that you love?
Sorry, my mind was already on a new idea that came up as
Go
we're going
ahead,
through
go
it.
ahead, and then you can
But
ask Mohammed the
yeah,
same.
well, yeah, I just think, I'm always about the solutions. Like, yeah, we know the current state, it's not sustainable. How do we sort of leapfrog as opposed to incremental, and there's incremental things we're doing today, and that's why we see some progress. But you know how we've been talking about, hey, we have a physician and they don't necessarily understand the business. So what does the physician do? They go to Harvard Business School and they get their MBA, and now so you have these two pieces, and then they learn the tech, and so that's great. What about, so I was flipping it in my mind. What about the CIO or the tech leader who's not a clinician? And they're super smart, like Muhammad and I. We go out and we learn operations, which Muhammad talked about, and get involved, and we get that level. But there's no equivalent MBA clinically. And that's where my mind is at right now as we are talking, is like, whoa, and probably someone already created this. But exactly how physicians are going to get their MBA to kind of learn the business side and meld it together in that trifecta that was described earlier. Where does the CIO go to get clinical chops? Is there a 2-year program, immersive program, that I learned all about being now? I'm not going to get a license to practice. I'm not saying that, but I'm going to get like super deep in the clinical world. I think that's going to help propel, because what's lacking on the tech side is there's very few people like Muhammad, very few. 90% are more like, the network, is it on or not? They're not thinking like he thinks. And no amount of, further sort of tech education, I don't think is going to help. I think we need to like create this MBA equivalency on the clinical side, so that people like Muhammad and I in our peer group, we could learn more and in depth on the clinical side.
So
So
Harvey
the
is
answer,
working
the
on
answer,
some of these, software as a solution for exactly what we call decision support system for AI vendors. And Mia and Harvey and Ed are going to meet in San Diego, talk more about it. I mean, it's going to be Harvey's project, not mine. But just FYI, you Ed, we should, I don't know, somehow meet.
We
But
will.
sorry, Arlen, go ahead. You can
now
quickly, and
what I
then I
was going
want
to
to flip
say,
back
what I
to
was going to
Mohammed.
say, Ed, is
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
your point is a missed opportunity for medical schools, and I've told them this. What I've suggested is essentially a community college for techies at medical school.
Yeah.
So that you put them through a 1 or 2 year program where you introduce them to the lingo and the culture and the people and the whatever, so they at least get some understanding. And this has to do with the same way with doctors. How do you create people who can be bilingual without an accent?
Yeah.
They at least understand the jargon, maybe they understand the culture, they kind of get some insight. And this is no different than biodesign programs where, you as an engineer understand that, where the bioengineers, day one, get sent to the wards
Yeah.
and they watch doctors do what they do. Same thing with the data thing. I just see this as another biodesign program for techies.
Yeah.
And you can take advantage of the fact that you have this curriculum, so why not offer it? Who incidentally will pay a lot of money to do it, because now you can't get international students to pay the full freight.
Okay. Mohammed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ed. When I started my journey in a CIO role, I took and luckily the Chime, which is a great organization. I think Ed there, and that's how I come to know Ed. Ed works my facilitator for the CIO boot camp. I think Ed, to learn what I know today, I think the best advice I can give it to the CIOs, even the founder, spend the time in a floor.
Yeah.
So when I started at Reed Health, I asked my CEO, can I please get an office very next to the ER? Why do I want to do that? Because I really want to see a person walk in
Yeah.
and going through the whole journey, I can witness their pain point. Spend time, do the rounding. So I do rounding 4 or 5 times a day in my hospital, to be honest with you. Talk to variety of different role, can be a nurse, can be NP, AP, and all those people, and learn their pain point and ask them, what is the opportunity you see there? And see if I be able to transfer that opportunity using a technology to solve their problem. So I don't think you're going to learn that in a school on a textbooks, to be honest with you. You're going to learn that by doing it. And this
Yeah.
is my advice to everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
We're unique though, Mohammed, but it's great advice. I did the same thing. I worked in the OR one
Yeah.
shift a week at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not enough of that
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah.
that's an easy thing. Anyone can do. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free.
Well, again, I'm extremely grateful for the people who joined us live. And then, of course, the recorded solution, YouTube, and everything is going to come in a few episodes. Nicole, our producer, is going to publish through. Just again, a reminder, Harvey Castro is doing the TED Talk. Edward Marks at the AI Med is going to do CFO. Arlen Myers is going to talk about clinicians becoming more entrepreneurs. Muhammad is always on LinkedIn. I hope you could have seen him and AI Med, but in future, especially, we're going to bring them all
Mhm.
of these together. The three things that I learned from the podcast is number one, we do need to understand pain points better and then discuss not
Yeah.
solutions but workflows. Number two, we do need a solution for economic decision support for CIOs, which is again one of the founders will be able to help them and even maybe fund them to build that solution. And number three, I think education requires collaboration if you are going through the Arlen Myers route, or on the job learning is very important that you interact with people deeply and not just say hi, hello. Again, I'm very grateful to my guests, Arlen and Mohammed. I'm very grateful to my friends and experts on a regular basis, Ed and Harvey. Next week, we're going to talk about, we get Talia Baker is coming. We're going to talk about uh, generating clinical evidence at the point of care for improving guidelines in oncology. So Talia Baker is a transplant surgeon. So hopefully I'll see you there in the next week as well. I'll be going live from San Diego. So see you guys. Thank you so much, everyone.